Thank you. Thank you for inviting me here and to have time with you, sharing some views about why studying religion is important today in our society, in our time. As you know, and as you are facing it every day, we have new trends thinking that religion is backward, religion is not essential. Dawkins, I saw his book over there, is of the opinion that we are studying or being involved in a discipline without object because there is no God for sure. And then still, I think that today in our world it's essential to study religions for three main points and understanding within our society. The first one is really the way I see it is coming back to the essential questions. If you are a believer or not, still I think, and this is something that I was advocating in a book talking about the quest for meaning and developing a philosophy of pluralism, is we have to reconcile ourselves with four disciplines. The first one is history, and the second one is studying religions and philosophy. Why? Because when it comes to religion, we are dealing here with the essential questions related to life. It's the answer or the answers to the question why. Is there a transcendence? Is there a meaning in our life? And not only it's essential for us to come back to this question, it's essential because by asking these questions of why and how is there a meaning of our life, we are questioning something which is essential, the meaning of life and the objectives of life. And when you talk about this, it's related to all the question of our time and essentially the ethical question. It doesn't mean that it's only by studying religions that we are dealing with ethics, but by dealing with religions, we deal with ethics, and we are able to deal with ethical questions that are also coming from people who are atheists and people who are agnostics. So studying religion is mainly about meaning of life, objectives, and ethics. It's really about essential questions. And when I'm saying this, and this was one of the issues that we discussed with the new atheists today, is that's all fine when it comes to science, it's all fine when it comes to technology, but we still have to ask ourselves what are the ethical questions that we have to ask to scientists when it comes to dealing with science understood as means and understood as a potential way of dealing with how it works, but not telling us why and in which way we have to use our knowledge. So religions are bringing us to the essential dimension of life when it comes to this. And this is why I think we have to come back to this. My understanding of our industrialized societies, not only in the West, but everywhere, but mainly in secular societies, is to have confused the absence of religion in public life with avoiding the religious questions in our life, because the questions that are connected to religions in our society. And I think that we have to reconcile ourselves with the deep philosophical question. There is a lack of philosophy and religions in our life as object of study, as questioning the objectives and the goals of our life. This is one thing. The second thing why it's essential today, it's a very deep understanding of freedom and education. When you are teaching and when you are educating, there is something which is essential. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to give you the means for you to be autonomous, intellectually independent. Independent means you take your decision and you know what you are talking about. And we know this when it comes to literature, we know this when it comes to science. In fact, educating is going alone at one point for you to be able to go on your own, alone, that you are equipped. You are free when you are equipped to decide. And when it comes to religions today, we let the people think, and children think, and students think, you are free even though you don't know anything about the topic. And this is wrong. There is a contradiction in terms between freedom and ignorance, because ignorance by definition is a prison, is a jail. And today we are confusing, once again, the secular teaching with we don't speak about religion is the best way to deal with it. And I think we need to teach religions to help the people to be free with their decision. In fact, you are free to decide when you know what you are talking about. Now, I have been teaching French literature for years. And when you have students, when you talk about Jesus and when you talk about Moses, and you say, I'm talking about Victor Hugo, I'm talking about the philosopher, and you don't know anything about your own tradition, you are ignorant of the roots, don't think that you are free with your presence if you don't know all these traditions. So you need to get back to this, which is also connected to knowledge of history, knowledge of religions, and knowledge of your own roots. Because you are free when you can decide based on knowledge. So you need to get the knowledge. And this is something that, unfortunately, today we speak about freedom. I'm not sure that we are enough aware of the substance of freedom. What is freedom when it comes to intellectual freedom, intellectual independence? And with religion, it's something which is important. I see people say, okay, I am against all the religions, and you ask them, what do you know about religions? Oh, what I got from my parents, or what I know. It's very superficial. And there is also something which is, even with the new atheists, I think that it's very important to have atheists and agnostics involved in the discussion. But I'm sorry to say, and this is what I said to Dawkins, your knowledge about religion from outside is a bit simplistic. It's a bit superficial. And if you had to go for an exam in theology, it might be that you would fail, is what you know about what you are criticizing. Because it's very superficial. But it's very easy to be patronizing when you have, okay, you still think or believe in angels, that there is a power beyond this. Science is not about this. Now we are, you know, when someone is looking at you and say, you know what, it's the 21st century, meaning just grow up. I think that this is where arrogance confused with the way you deal with independence and intellectual independence of freedom, this is important. The last thing is, the first is about knowledge, philosophy. The second is about freedom and decision. And the last thing is about us living in pluralistic society. It's over. If you think about Britain with, you know, white middle-class people all coming from the same religious tradition and say, this is us, it's someone can just stop you and say, who is this us you are talking about? This us of the past or the us today is Britain is a pluralism in cultural terms and on religious terms. Now you are dealing with Buddhists, you are dealing with Hindus, you are dealing with Jews, you are dealing with Christians, you are dealing with Muslims, and you have to take this into account now. And if you want to live with people, if you want to get a sense of what pluralism is about, pluralism is not about tolerating and being ignorant of the other. And this is why I don't like the term tolerance. I like the term respect. And respect, the difference is that I can tolerate you without knowing you, ignoring you. But tolerance has limits, and it's quite patronizing. I always tolerate people who I look at them as a minority or people who are on the margin. On equal footing, you need to respect, and respect is based on knowledge. You need to know the others. You need to know, and this is why we have to teach, we have to learn. For three reasons. The first one is, one of the main problems that I had as a European Muslim, a Muslim European, is not the fact that the people don't know about what Islam is. It's about they don't know what Christianity is. They don't know about themselves. So of course when you don't know who you are scared of who you are not. So your own ignorance about your own self makes it difficult for you to deal with people saying, yes, I am a believer and I am practicing. So there is something which is the knowledge of the self. Not for you to be a Christian or to be a Jew or to be a Muslim, but at least to know who you are and who you don't want to be. So to define yourself is something which is important. To deal with others, it's important, and I think that this is why we need this knowledge, and a knowledge which is not only based on our tradition, but starting with other traditions. it's only after a catastrophe in Europe that we started saying that Europe was a Judeo-Christian culture. Just before the Second World War, it was just a Christian culture. After what happened, say, oh, we have to integrate the people we destroyed. And then it's a Jewish Christian culture. And when you say this, you are excluding, and now it's not true. The European culture is not only a Jewish Christian culture, Islam is part of it, and now you have Buddhists, millions, you have Hindus who are here, and you have to deal with this. So in order to go beyond this tolerant attitude and going to mutual respect and understanding, we need to get this knowledge for ourselves, the knowledge of the self, and then the knowledge of others. Because you have people now in Britain, you have people now in Europe, you have people around the world who are taking their religion seriously, and they are practicing. So if you look at people who are praying, who are fasting, now we just, or people who have a way of dressing, you need to understand. And the point is not for you to project onto them, if you dress like this, it's because your father, because your brother. It might be that this is a way of dealing with your own freedom, and it's not a Western, secular way of dealing with my own freedom. If I'm not free the same way you are, it doesn't mean that I'm less free than you are, because it might be that your freedom is just to follow fashion, and my freedom could be to follow my convictions. Who can say this? Who can decide? Who can judge? And by knowing more, you become less judgmental. And this is what we need today. People who are less emotionally judgmental and more intellectually open. So openness based on rationality and reasonable dialogue, and not on emotional reaction because it appears to be a free way of behaving that I think it's freedom. That's not the right way. And I spent a long time working on the chapter on freedom and saying it's a very subtle and complex notion, freedom, when it comes to this. So I think that this is why we need to learn about religions to be able to deal with this understanding. And the last thing which is important is when you deal with religions, and you deal not only with rituals, and this is why you need to study religions, the deep teachings, not only the way the people pray, but why they pray. Not the way they fast, but why they think it's important to fast. So the deep answer, or the very profound answers they give to very profound questions. I remember it's not only by studying, but it's also by meeting people dealing with, for example, the Trinity. And you know that between Islam and Christianity, the main question is about Trinities, is the three and the one. And when you deal with people coming from the Christian tradition and you study this, you can understand that it's very deep. It's a very deep teaching, and you stop being judgmental about the three, and you understand the very spiritual meaning. So this is where you get a sense that it's deeper than that. And we need to have the deep knowledge of these answers. By saying this, my last point is, I think studying religions is helping you to get something which is the condition for any pluralistic society, which is what I call intellectual humility. Intellectual humility means I believe that what I believe is the truth, but I don't have the ownership of truth. The truth doesn't belong to me. So there are other ways of dealing with truth, and you need to get this. So this critical intellectual distance that you have with the religion, which is not catechism, which is not the way you are told to believe that this is true, but you take a critical distance within academia and say you understand that there are different ways. This is what you get. Intellectual humility is, I don't get it all. I have to learn. I can get from others, and they are helping me to understand better what I believe, and sometimes to change the way I believe. So intellectual humility, if there is something that we are not giving degrees and PhDs on, we don't give degrees on intellectual humility. But a true degree without intellectual humility is not a true degree. It's not a degree, I would say. If you don't get a PhD, if you are called a professor, so the giant word that is in the title is exactly the opposite. You should never, never, ever think that you are reaching something which is a position where there is not this intellectual doubt about not the truth, but the way you deal with it. It's doubting oneself, which is essential within academia and studying religion. So the philosophical question, the objectives, the ethics, then the understanding of this dialogue, which is important, and then the last thing, it's coming back to the self and getting this intellectual humility. That's it. Thank you. Both. I think these are two different things. Is religion as a topic in itself, what does it mean? And by the way, religion, even the term religion, there are multiple meanings and sometimes rejected by some. If you go to, I had a deep discussion with Buddhists and say, religion, we don't like this word. And even the faculty of theology here say, faculty of theology and religions. And they would talk more about spirituality or about, you know, a way of dealing with not transcendence, but the immanence of the self. So this is a topic. And this is very interesting, that we need to teach and we need to learn that as a topic in itself, to look at the different ways as an object. And then there are multiple religions and spiritualities that we have to learn, that we have to try at least to get a sense of it. So of course we can't be specialists on everything, but at least to get a sense of, you know, the monotheism, what is happening in the East. China, it's not important today only because it's a new market. It's Confucianism, and the very deep understanding of the way they deal with the self is something which is essential. And you can see also sometimes how religions could be instrumentalized for economic reasons or political reasons. And it's important. Look at what is happening in the Middle East. It's also very important to get a sense of religions, and this could be a fourth reason why we need to go for this, because to understand the world. So I would say both are important. There are many things. There are, of course, you have surrounding the university in students' activities, you have lots of interface dialogue, and you have institutions and you have groups that are working. But within the faculty of theology, you have the Abrahamic religion. There is a chair on this, which is very much based on interfaith dialogue between at least the monotheistic traditions, at least, so which is a starting point. But this is very important, and this was set 5 years ago, and it's a new chair. And I think that this is where you can find a way of dealing with interface dialogue. And then you can open this, if you want, with centers that are working on, you know, South Asian countries, and you can add to this African countries, so you can add to this. So it's also something that you have a room for maneuver within the institution to find your way, depending on what you are doing. And we are trying at Oxford also to be connecting centers, institutions, and faculties to try to work together. So this is something that we can find. But there is, in the faculty of theology, there is something that we can get. So you take a stand on that. Let me tell you something. First,
just to say, I'm an ag-convergent now, that's theology degree.
Yeah. Okay, so that's very good. I don't think that, I think that there is a small group of people who are very visible that we call the new atheism, that they have some, you know, common positioning and way of talking about religion. But I wouldn't say that, you know, among the atheists and atheism in itself, we have one voice. That's not true. And I have lots of people who are atheists. They don't like new atheism. They don't like this way of being arrogant and simplistic. No, I think that we have, you know, I studied first philosophy. My first PhD was on philosophy on Nietzsche, the one who said God is dead. And you know, lots of people coming from the atheist tradition, that they helped me a lot to be a better believer, by the way. Yeah. I don't see this when I'm debating or reading first and then debating Dawkins. I have a problem with the understanding of religion and the way so we have to be very cautious not to think that it's only one voice. It's one media voice, one visible voice, but it's not covering all things. And this is why we have to be very cautious with the media, because sometimes it's exactly the same with religions. We listen to the people who are the more vocal and we think these are the people. You know, they are all extremists or all radicals, and they are not, in fact, representing the deep mainstream and the different voices. This is one thing which is important for us, is to be to take a critical distance and to make a difference between who are the visible voices or the heard voices in the whole landscape, and who are the people who are in the society trying to find their way, agnostics or atheists. Now, I wouldn't go for one religious voice. I don't think it's not what I am expecting and hoping for. I think that we need to come together, and we need to have people working on the deep ethical questions. And it's true that this understanding that in the public sphere, in the public, you know, this division between the private and the public, and religion is for the private, and we don't want to see you in the public. I don't like this. And this is where I would like, not only, by the way, the religious voices, but the ethical voices. And sometimes I met atheists that are more ethical than religious people, apparently. But this is where I think that the voices could come and question as to the objectives. What do we want with science? What do we want with technology? Where are we heading in this business today? When it comes to environment, when it comes to the dignity of human being. When, for example, you can say yes to organ donation, where what is happening in the business is to forget the very essence of what a person is. In the medical sciences now, in the medical business, we are talking about organs, we are not talking, and we are losing sight from a person. What does it mean, health? What is the meaning of health? This is where we need to come together. But I wouldn't say one voice, but many voices with the same concerns. The ethical concerns. And this is where I wouldn't go for something which is one strong voice against the new atheists, because this is exactly what they want. This is exactly what they want. Just come together, and this is the target. We knew that this is what you want. I think that this is more provocation than discussion. I don't think that there is something like this that you should avoid. You need to decide. There is a decision at the beginning. This is from where you are. But let me tell you something. In my life, the first dimension was, of course, monotheism. And I was attracted by studying Judaism and Christianity. And I did this. I went. But my study is I'm not only working within academia. I think we have to study, and we get this, and this is why, for example, it's important within academia to get this kind of teaching. But I went to South America. I spent time with Don Elder Camara, who is the one who taught me the way you deal with love within your tradition, and it came back to my religion. So I think that this is where, depending on your field, depending on the way which questions you have at the beginning. And then I went to India, and I went to spend time with the Dalai Lama. I wanted to understand what was the meaning of Buddhism, not in the exotic way where people are happy because they will come back, and there is, reincarnation, which is the bad thing in the Buddhist tradition. But, exotically speaking, oh yes, we are coming back. But so I went there, and this is where I started to learn about the Asian and Eastern philosophies and spirituality. So you open up. It depends. And I wouldn't say, for example, going back to Africa, and you look at all these cultures, there is always something that you can get from very old traditions. Very old. So I would let all the doors open depending on where you are in your journey.
It wouldn't be human sacrifice. You wouldn't want to learn that.
Why? There is nothing. No. I wouldn't go for that. There is nothing outdated. You look at it and say, outdated. No, I wouldn't. It depends how you deal with people. But even when you are dealing with superstitions, and you look at the way they are dealing with superstitions, and by the way, it's coming back. We are in secular superstitions are coming back now. So we have this kind of thing. So this is why you have to deal with this, and you have to take this seriously. I think that anything which is coming from a human mind and a human heart has to be taken seriously. Anything. If you think it's outdated, I say it's arrogance to think it's so quickly outdated for you while it's meaningful for others. So anything which is meaningful for human being it's worth studying. This is the way I would put it. You know, it depends how you deal with, you know, it's here, the question is, why is it important to study religion? And in fact, there is one question before studying religion. It's a question put that way. What do you do with what you are studying? Are you studying to get degrees and titles? That's fine. Go ahead, you will get them. Are you studying to get knowledge and then to resist in the name and with your knowledge to what is happening in the world? So when I studied philosophy, it was very much to get the means to change the world for the better. And I think that studying religion is to change yourself for the better and to change the world for the better by better understanding, respect towards people. And then this is where you get the challenge. I saw people who are trying to get degrees just for the degrees, and that's fine. I don't like it, but if you get the level, if you are equipped, you get for that. You get it. And I think that there is the other side, which is knowledge, it's power, and power is to take over or to resist. And I think what I understand with the relationship between university and cities is to get the knowledge within university in order to resist within the cities to what is happening. For the better, I mean, a kind of positive resistance by asking the right questions, resisting the bad trends that we have. Populism, for example, it's the way populism is about emotion. Academia is about rationality and reasonable way of dealing with your rationality. So you have to be connected. So if you get the degree and you don't use this for being within the society, trying to put the right question, asking about the objectives, trying to get the goals, and this is why you deal with the governments, you deal with institutions, you deal with your own people, and this is something which is very important, because you can be scared of the others when you don't know who you are, but when you know who you are, you should be self-critical with the people who are talking in your name.
This was a little bit more generally, when you see religious intolerance in the world, that must, as a religious scholar, that must be something a little frustrating.
No, it's stimulating. You know that you have to work. You have to teach more. And then you have to reach out to teach the students to be equipped, and then to have a voice outside. And this is why the people are, you know, when you are described as I was here, you know, as a public figure, for me it's the same. You deal with the institution within academia to teach, but then you go out to talk, to use your knowledge in order to change. And it's frustrating, of course, because some people are saying things in the name of all the religions that are just scary, that sometimes are unacceptable. And this is why you have to resist. But we have, I don't know, one citizen who should not resist something. A citizen without resistance is a lost citizen, I would say. This is the way I would put it. But this is a good question for two reasons. When you teach religions in universities or public institutions, you are teaching the principles, the rituals, the meanings. So we have to be very careful. We are not teaching faith and how to believe. We are teaching what the people are believing in. And this is helping us for one thing, which very often in African, Asian, Middle Eastern society, we don't have this kind of taking a critical distance to say, okay, these are the principles, this is... And many people, when they come to theology, they want to have a teaching about faith. Tell me how to believe. No, that's not the point. We are talking about the principle. So it's a critical distance, but we need it. And then for any one of us who is more a believer, you have to go to other sources. And then to get the two sides is the substance of what you believe and the way you look at the rituals and the meaning. And this is what we need. Is, in fact, studying religion should be for two dimensions of yourself. Your mind to get, and your heart if you are a believer. But this is why if you are not, you can still get the understanding. And we need, I think that even for atheists, to get the framework, to get the understanding, it's important because it helps. So to compare this to exact or hard sciences, there is no point. This is about human sciences, and it's about the sense of the way the people are dealing. So it's human science, it's both history, but philosophy, but also anthropology. It's all these fields together, and we need this to have this. So I would always advise somebody who wants to get better knowledge of religion, work on the two sides. So the very clear understanding of the rational, because it's very rational. In fact, the people who are, the point with new atheists is that there is irrational. No. You know, when someone is telling you there is a limit to rationality, it's not irrational. It's very rational to say there is a limit to rationality. If you get me right. You know, this is very rational. But for some, it's not. It's very similar to all the great minds in all the religions. You know, and there is one point that he said, I'm a Hindu, a Buddhist, a Jew, a Muslim, a Christian. I wouldn't say that. Because I really think I understand why he's saying it from where he's saying it. But I think that there is something which is very important in this, is for him in his spiritual journey, say, I'm all this together. But today, in our world, and the way I see it, is I'm talking, when I'm teaching, I'm trying to be objective with all. From where I am as a believer, you belong to a tradition. And you have to be respectful of the people from where they are in their religion. So the point is, the syncretism to mix all these dimensions, for me, it's a danger today. Because religions are not a market. It's not a market. It's something which has to be based on respecting the very essence of each religion. For example, as I told you, I would never call myself a Christian, because I don't get the very deep communion of what the mystery of the Trinity is. I can't get it.
But that's also very similar to Ghandi.
Yes and no. Yes and no. Because when he was talking about, but the point is that what he is trying to translate in what he was saying is that we need to understand that we have a journey, we have a viewpoint, and we have to respect all the others. On this, we all agree. But I would say that this is what we find all the people who were from within their religion, helping the people to grow, the people to understand, the people to be open to others, were having exactly the same position. And this is why these people should be much more vocal with their own people, by helping the people to be self-critical and to decenter themselves, and to help the world to understand we need this teaching. But the problem is that everywhere in the world, Ghandi and his position, his vision is celebrated. The problem is that it's not translated into reality. So we like this. And sometimes we kill the people that the day after we are celebrating. So you look at, 50 years after Martin Luther King, Dr. King in the States, what a great mind. Yes, but you killed him. It was killed. He was killed. And then we have to be clear that it should not, and this is my point on this. This is why we have to study. It has to be something which is based also on knowledge and not on emotion and the charismatic leaders. It's very dangerous. A charismatic leader is dangerous because of his charisma or her charisma. Because it's much more based on the emotional dimension than the rational dimension. So I think that we need to always deconstruct this by saying, many Gandhis are unknown in the Hindu tradition. Many people like him are unknown in the Jewish Muslim tradition. And I would refer to them much more than to refer to people that we like and that we are idealizing. While we need to just be I would say that in our teaching within academia and our schools, we need to look much more about role models that are less known in history, but very effective in their life.